Sherma might be the cutest character in any video game ever, but he also undergoes a pretty fascinating arc. He really transforms over the course of this story from a silly and naive child driven forward by blind faith, totally ignorant of the cruelty and deception of the Citadel, and then by the midpoint of his journey he has become a kind of heroic figure, delving alone into the dangerous depths of the White Ward to acquire medicinal supplies to aid his fellow pilgrims. And by the end he has transformed into a leader, one of the bugs who will guide Farloom into a new age. Sherma is a character defined by his faith, his irrepressible optimism, total belief in the great promise of the Golden Citadel that awaits him and his fellow pilgrims. He never fully loses that belief. Even after enduring hardships that cause so many other bugs to give up, his faith remains. He carries an inner strength that is really quite inspiring. However, the nature of that faith evolves throughout the story, maturing into something deeper and much more grounded by the end. But before we discuss that transformation in detail, let's pull back a little. Let's talk about how faith and religion are portrayed elsewhere in the story of Silksong. As I discussed in my previous video on the conductors, religion gets a pretty bad rap in this game. The theocracy of the Citadel is a lie woven by the Weavers. It is a fabrication designed to save no one but themselves. It is fundamentally selfish and deceptive, and under the rule of the conductors it becomes something even worse. The conductors used the promise of holy reward as bait to lure in hundreds upon hundreds of bugs who are then trapped within a system of exploitation, of endless toil and labor with no hope of escape, all for the sake of maintaining the conductors' lavish lifestyle, their spa treatments, and their gourmet cuisine, while bugs like Loam work themselves to death down in the smoke and ash-filled caverns of the underworks. But wait, there is something else going on here. Take a look at this dialogue between Hornet and Chakra at Mount Fae. Chakra says, quote, "Child-wielding needle, how far our wanderings take us. The cold air here bites through our shells as true as any blade. Warm yourself by my lantern while I call." Hornet, quote, "Farloom is a land of harsh extremes. Perhaps that is, in part, why the Pilgrims have a culture of testing themselves against it so fervently." Chakra, quote, "Perhaps. When I first encountered them, I had little respect for the weak, rag-bundled bugs, too cowardly to even carry a weapon. But, Dodonku, sometimes we judge too quickly. There is a subtle strength to them, though it is difficult for me to truly understand it." What Chakra is sensing here, but unable to fully comprehend, is their faith. These pilgrims are not powerful warriors, not great adventurers, not anything really. As she says here, they do not even carry weapons. They are just ordinary bugs. Moreover, the pilgrimage through Farloom is extremely dangerous. The path is littered with the bodies of pilgrims who are struck down by its many perils. Not to mention those who have been seized by the haunting, devolved into little more than mindless zombies. And yet, some of them survive. A lot of them, actually. Something keeps driving these pilgrims forward, higher and higher. Something which empowers them, inspires them to overcome incredible challenges. I think the biggest difference between Hallownest, the setting of Hollow Knight, and Farloom, the setting of the sequel, is that Hallownest was a truly dead kingdom. Besides a very small handful of adventurers and survivors, and also the entire Mantis tribe, every single bug we encountered in that game had long ago been consumed by the infection. Farloom, by contrast, is so alive. Pilgrims are constantly arriving. I was really shocked when, during the later stages of the game, I returned to Bone Bottom to find new bugs there just beginning the first steps of their journey. Even up in Songclave, which is near the very top of the Citadel. To reach this location, the pilgrims have to journey across basically the entire map. And I don't know if you've noticed, but this game is freaking hard, man. Our player character is about 1,000 times stronger than any of these pilgrims. And I still died like 500 times just to reach this point. How the heck did these little weaklings get so far? Of course, we have already answered that question. It is their faith. Even if their religion is just an elaborate fabrication, it can still be a source of strength, unity, and courage. Hornet is even rescued by some of those pilgrims in Act 3. She collapses in the ruins of the Upper Citadel, And when she awakens in Songclave, Sherma informs her that her unconscious body was found by a group of fleeing pilgrims who carried her to safety. And so, for all of her incredible strength and skill, Hornet only survives to reach the true ending of the game because she was saved by a group of completely anonymous pilgrims, bugs far weaker than she. Sherma, who is perhaps the physically weakest and smallest of any character in the game, is just one of many. The stories of both Hollow Knight and Silksong tend to focus on the special bugs, the pale beings, the higher beings, those who wield magic and soul to change the world. On the other hand, Sherma is representative of the ordinary bugs, who are revealed to possess their own unique inner strength. What I want to do now is follow his journey from beginning to end, from our first encounter down in the Marrow to the final farewell up in Songclave, to see how his character changes, and how this ties into the story's themes of faith and religion. Okay, so the first three encounters, one by this locked gate, another by the Bell Beast, and then up by the travel station in the far fields, are all pretty similar. Sherma is portrayed as a very goofy and playful and childish character, at stark odds with the general suffering and death all around him. He is driven by a blind faith that everything is going to work out not only for him, but for every pilgrim on the path, no matter what happens. He truly believes that all he has to do is bang on his little chime, sing a silly song, and everything will just work itself out. The first obstacle he comes across in his journey is this locked gate, and instead of making any attempt to find a way around, he just stands here and sings. If you talk to him, he says, quote, "Oh, hear me pray, please hear me sing. My path's ahead, but here's the thing. I can't squeeze past, oh gate of bone, so please wake up and help." Oh, Hornet, quote, "Why do you sing, little one? This bony gate seems like a poor audience." Sherma, quote, "Oh, but of course I sing. I am Sherma, a pilgrim just like you. I hear the call of the citadel just like every other devout soul. But look here, as soon as our sacred journey begins, we are tested. This huge gate stands between us and the way forward. Only holy prayer and song will open the way. In this kingdom, even mighty bone is moved by music. Join your voice with mine, Red Maiden. You, me, and my lucky chime will sing together until the great gate opens." After Hornet works her way around and opens it for him, instead of realizing that it was thanks to her, he attributes the success to his cutesy song. He says, quote, "Hoy, did ye see it, Red Maiden? The great gate heard my song and in its infinite and ancient kindness has opened the way forward for us. Gate, 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 nicest gate I've met. Gate, 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 greatest miracle yet." So yeah, this guy is an idiot, but in his defense, he does appear to just be a little kid. Probably far too young to be embarking on this very dangerous journey. I mean, where the heck are this kid's parents? Players frequently misidentify Sherma as female, which is understandable because he is voiced by a woman. The game does explicitly identify him as male in the Balm for the Wounded quest description, which reads, quote, "Search for the traces of the pilgrim, Sherma, and track his location." It is fairly standard practice in media for young male characters to be voiced by women. Anyway, moving on, you can next find Sherma in the same cavern as the Bell Beast. This little guy, when he finds a giant monster trapped in silk, instead of running away or doing anything whatsoever to ensure his own safety, just stands around and starts banging on his noisy chime again, and welcomes the giant monster to join him in song. He says, quote, "Beast, beastly, big fat beast, strong as a boulder or a rock at least, let's sing together till you're released. Oh, look here, Red Maiden, this poor creature is all tangled up in white bindings. Surely you know a song for unsticking such stickiness." Hornet, quote, "It will take a power greater than song to break these bindings, little one. In my current diminished state, even I cannot cut through them." Sherma, quote, "Well, worry not, if something is needed, the road will bring it to us. Come now, beast, let us hear your voice. Sing with me, sing, sing, sing. Make caverns echo and great roads ring." On my first playthrough, I thought this was hilarious, and I also strongly suspected that this kid was not going to survive this journey. He is just way too naive and way too trusting. I was certain that Farloom was going to chew him up and spit him out, and oh how wrong I was. But on my second playthrough, I wondered if this was meant to hint that Sherma actually does possess some sort of deeper perception. You know, the cliche of the innocent wisdom of the child and all that. The Bell Beast is later revealed to be a very friendly and intelligent creature. Moreover, the sound of his charm draws Hornet to both of these locations, which leads to her opening the gate and freeing the Bell Beast. When Sherma says that the road will bring them whatever is needed, he's right about that too. Hornet does find the ability upgrade necessary for breaking the thread nearby. It's kind of funny, in an indirect way, Sherma actually does solve all of his problems by singing, at least so far. Moving on, his third appearance is by far the silliest one in the game. Okay, so if you arrive at this travel station earlier, you can meet this bug who is utterly exhausted and on the verge of collapse. They say, quote, "Oh, sister, my aching shell's close to breaking. My voice weakens, I can hardly sing a word." If you come back later, you will see that Sherma has arrived to save the day. He is relentlessly pounding on his chime right beside the exhausted bug, certain that it will help. He says, quote, "Don't despair, pilgrim friend, lift your sight and raise your voice. Have no fear, pilgrim true, believing is a happy choice." Hoy there, aren't these fields marvelous, and above us are the bountiful moors, where every pilgrim can fill their belly. Hornet, quote, "These hot fields are a wonder indeed, but hunters prowl the long grass. Playing your instrument will only alert them to your presence." Sherma, quote, "Well then alert them I shall, for where many gather, great songs are sung." This poor traveler finds her resolve waning. When I first greeted her, her voice was so hoarse I scarcely heard it. 'Tis no cause for worry though, my song will lift her from her torpor. Join your voice with mine, red maiden, and together we shall rouse our fellow pilgrim. Sister, sister, tired and glum, we will sing and you can hum. Together we shall overcome. And if you speak to the pilgrim now, all they can do is groan because they are freaking dying here. While this is hilarious, I think it is actually an important moment for Sherma's character, because it contrasts his later development. At this point in his story, he believes that song alone is enough to heal his fellow pilgrims. But later on, he will realize that more direct action is required. Also at this point, he is oblivious to the dangers that surround him, ignoring Hornet's warnings. Later on, he is going to learn to be much more cautious. Next, we meet him in Bellheart, and here I want to discuss the relationship between Sherma and Hornet. First, their dialogue here, where he says, quote, "Oh hoy there, why I must have dropped off to sleep as soon as I arrived. Certainly the pilgrim's way is exhausting, but a good rest is a reward unto itself. Now isn't this a wondrous place, golden bells for weary shells?" Hornet, quote, "This settlement offers safety for now, little pilgrim. Perhaps you should make a home here. You've done well to make it this far, and the roads ahead will only be more dangerous." Sherma, quote, "Oh, dangerous they surely are, but I will gladly tread any path that holds wonders as magnificent as this, Red Maiden. I'll be off soon, once I'm good and rested. Beyond the wood lies the final climb, and then at last we shall reach the citadel. Which one of us will reach the grand gate first? If it's me, I shall wait for you so we can enter together." Something you will have likely noticed in their exchanges is that Hornet takes on a mentor role in Sherma's story. She's even kind of motherly, which ties into other important themes we have discussed in previous videos. She sort of informally adopts him. She gently nudges him towards abandoning his naivete, telling him again and again that it will take more than just song to overcome these challenges, and advising him to stay here in Bellheart where he will be safe. You can tell that she is genuinely worried about him. You can see it again in their next encounter at the Blasted Steps. She finds Sherma collapsed on the ground, and at first she worries that he has been hurt, saying to him, quote, "Little pilgrim, do you sleep?" Sherma, quote, "Hoy there, I was looking for somewhere to rest my weary shell and found this cozy station." Hornet, quote, "These lands are dangerous. I had thought perhaps some harm had come to you." Sherma, quote, "Harm? Oh, Red Maiden, have faith. No harm can come to us on this holy ascent. We only need to keep our gaze upwards. Isn't all this so terribly grand? The great stone steps, the winds lifting us up like the voices of a choir. And just beyond it all is our pilgrimage's end, the great citadel at last." And then if you talk to him after he falls asleep again, he says, quote, "I hadn't meant to drop off like that. It's hard to stay awake in such a cozy place, isn't it?" And you can see it again at the Grand Gate, where she accepts that he will not turn back, but she still urges him to be cautious, to be wary of the dangers that lie within. I think Hornet is really beginning to care about him during this section of the story. They have a very cute relationship. But she also underestimates him, the same way Chakra admits that she underestimated the Pilgrims in the dialogue we examined earlier. And this is something I will discuss in more detail in my next video, when we examine Hornet's character arc, because I think Sherma plays a really important role in her own transformation, the way she ultimately chooses to become Farloom's savior instead of its queen. It is Sherma who shows her that these ordinary bugs possess the strength necessary to carry Farloom into a new and better age on their own, that they are worth fighting for. These two encounters are also important to understanding Sherma's transformation, because they show his childish naivete beginning to crash into the harsh realities of the pilgrimage. He is exhausted, collapsing as soon as he arrives at Bellheart, and unable to keep himself awake in the blasted steps. He even finally admits that the path is dangerous. Moreover, this is the first time he is confronted by death, by his own mortality. Here he says, quote, "Aren't those solemn judge bugs nice? They do not speak or sing, but I sense great wisdom behind their gleaming gazes." Hornet, quote, "Beware them, little one. Wise or not, their judgments are often followed by violence. Many of your fellow pilgrims have fallen to them on these great steps." Sherma, quote, "Oh, but even the fallen will sometimes stand again, and all pilgrimages will be completed, yes? That's how I've heard it." When he is confronted by the brutality and violence of the Citadel, there is a brief moment of doubt, the very first feelings of uncertainty that Sherma has experienced in his journey, the first time his faith has been shaken. However, he quickly overcomes this moment of doubt and convinces himself that everything will work out. Luckily, just like Hornet, those judge bugs seem to have a soft spot for Sherma, since they allow him to pass unharmed. We are going to skip past the encounters at the Grand Gate and the spa, which are both very cute, but do not really reveal anything new about his character. Instead, we are going to fast forward to his arrival at Songclave in Act 2, when his doubts begin to sink even deeper. When he first arrives, he says, quote, "Oh hoy there, I was hoping we would meet here, Red Maiden. Rising at last to the heights of the Citadel and being amongst so many of my brothers and sisters, it is a blessing indeed, yes, a blessing." Hornet, quote, "Your voice belies some hesitation in that belief, little pilgrim. You have seen now the reality of this broken place. What do you make of it, truly?" Sherma, quote, "Do not judge me a doubter. The Citadel is a holy place indeed, resplendent and vast beyond my wildest hopes. But yet, the grand halls ache with silence, and I see suffering in the shadows wherever I peer too deeply. Fear and pain, why are these things allowed into our paradise? Have my brothers and sisters not yet earned their holy reward? This place is holy, yes, but I worry at the suffering of our fellow pilgrims. So many are hurt or exhausted." Hornet, quote, "Your doubts and worries will not heal them, little one. If you would aid your fellows, you can start by dressing their wounds. The simple rags found around the settlement will do for bandages." Sherma, quote, "Oh, that's an excellent idea, Red Maiden. Normally I'd think a song would suffice, but yes, more direct action is certainly needed. And the Citadel itself shall provide the materials. Praise be to this holiest of holy places." The Sherma we meet here has begun to change. He is more subdued. Where before most of his sentences ended in excited exclamation marks, now the pensive ellipsis has become more common in his dialogue. The Citadel is not the holy paradise he expected. He is finally beginning to recognize the suffering all around, and it bothers him. To his credit, he wants to help. Hornet offers him some advice. Instead of just sitting around and worrying, he should do something about it. Take action. and not just another silly song, but something practical and direct. And for the first time in his story, Sherma does not ignore her advice. He listens and he learns. This is a character growing up right before our eyes. With a plan in place, Sherma's old optimism returns. He is excited again. Unlike most of these other bugs who simply lie around and give up, Sherma keeps on fighting, and he does not stop there. Recognizing a need for more medical supplies, and probably inspired by Hornet's brave example, he descends into the haunted depths of the White Ward. There he will be confronted by the most vile of the sins committed by the rulers of the Citadel. The horrific surgeries, the piles of corpses, and the obsession with silk and eternal life. This is a phase of the hero's journey which I have discussed in detail in other videos. And this is a hero's journey, by the way. It has all of the classic elements. A hero's journey, broadly speaking, involves a protagonist leaving home, facing trials in some form of special world, and then undergoing a transformation there. Sherma's descent into the White Ward is his crucible moment, a period in which the hero passes through their most intense trial, characterized by failure, pain, fear, or self-doubt. However, enlightenment and transformation often await the hero on the other side of that crucible. When Hornet finds Sherma down there for the first and only time in his story, he has almost completely abandoned his optimism. If you play the needle in here, he sings a very different kind of song. He says, quote, "This place hidden from holy light, how did it escape the Citadel's sight? All this suffering, am I not holy enough?" He is overwhelmed not just by sheer terror, but what has been revealed about the Citadel's true nature, the black depths of this supposedly sacred place. It is not a golden paradise, but a place of death and horror. One of Sherma's most admirable traits is his compassion. He really cares about others. He says, quote, "Those poor bugs, bewitched by the thread, no sin could possibly warrant such a fate." However, his development is not yet complete. When he returns to Songclave, he says, quote, "All of these marvelous healing supplies, surely they at least are some proof of the Citadel's holy nature." He is still not able to fully abandon his faith in the promise of the Citadel. He just believed in it too deeply for too long. It will take something even more dramatic for him to finally grow up, which is exactly what happens in Act 3, when the Citadel is destroyed by Grandmother Silk, the symbol of paradise torn asunder before his very eyes. Except he still does not lose his faith, not exactly. Instead, his belief in the false promise of paradise has been replaced by something else, something much more real and tangible. Let's start with his change in physical appearance in Act 3. He has begun wearing the caretaker's cloak here, and because he's kind of dumb, he pulled it on over his hat, which is why it looks so funky. Anytime you see a character change their physical appearance in this way, you should pay attention. Writers often use surface-level changes to indicate deeper metamorphosis. As I mentioned earlier, the hero's journey usually ends with a transformation, and that is exactly what we see here. Sherma says, quote, "The caretaker charged me with looking after those remaining here." Sherma is no longer just a goofy little kid, he has become a leader. The safety of Songclave is his responsibility now. If Hornet speaks to him during the Old Hearts questline, he says, quote, "Our great citadel has lost its voice, and now the black threads rise up to tear its shell apart. I fear Holy Farloom is truly dying. But I still have hope, Red Maiden. Though kingdoms may fall, life endures still, and we bugs can build our lands anew." Hornet, quote, "I share your hope, Sherma. Remember, though, that whatever is built next belongs not to the past, but to you. Your instincts are strong. Let it be those that guide you, rather than any reverence toward a kingdom's corpse." Sherma, quote, "You flatter me so, but it is my fellows who shall guide me, those whose voices sing out still even in these ruined times." Notice that he no longer speaks as if happiness is a guarantee, that if he sings a silly song, everything will just automatically work out. He still has faith, but not in the Citadel. Instead, his faith rests in his fellow pilgrims. He believes they can build something new together. Now, let's look at the final farewell between Hornet and Sherma. He says, quote, "Red Maiden, you have some great task ahead of you, do you not? If so, then I fear the time of our final parting draws near." Hornet, quote, "You sense it true, Sherma. I shall soon descend to the darkness below the kingdom and quell the source of Farloom's rending. If that task is achieved, my future may take me far from Farloom. But know I have faith that you will hold these bugs together and see them prosper." Sherma, quote, "In truth I'm still only a fool, but I'll hold dearly to your faith in me. That warmth will help me to endure whatever challenge lies ahead. Now let me pray for you, dear friend, and may my hopes follow you into the deepest darkness and beyond. Maiden strong, wreathed in red, shield her shell, bless her thread. She fights for us until the end. Please protect my dearest friend." I'm pretty sure this is the only time in the entire game that Hornet uses the word faith. She tends to be a pretty skeptical and practical character. She is defined by her actions rather than by her beliefs. She uses her words sparingly, and she chose this word to demonstrate the depth of her feelings towards Sherma. She's not just being nice, she really does believe in him. This is a really sweet relationship, I just love it. Sherma has proven himself to be resilient, that he possesses a deep well of inner strength, and far more importantly than that, he has shown that he has the capacity to change and grow, a willingness to learn. His character demonstrates that faith really can be a positive force, when it is used to build someone up, to inspire compassion and community, instead of just trapping them in systems of exploitation and ignorance. Sometimes I see people who are confused by the popularity of Hollow Knight. Like, what sets this game apart from the legions of other Metroidvanias and search action games? And I think a big part of its appeal is the characters. They bring the world to life in a way that other games lack. Sherma reminds me a lot of Quirrell from the previous game. One of my all-time favorite moments is when you meet him at the end of his journey, when he is standing at the edge of the Blue Lake and you witness his final thoughts, where he says, quote, "To live in age yet remember so little, perhaps I should be thankful. All tragedy erased, I see only wonders." And I know I'm wasting your time right now and I'm just gushing over a story I like, but I think Quirrell's appreciation for the wonders of Hallow Nest adds an extra layer of magic to the setting. In a small way, you get to see the kingdom through his eyes. Sherma does something similar. He is such a little dork, but he is so excited to be here. He is so cute and delightful, and his presence adds a lot of humor and joy to what would have otherwise been a very bleak and miserable adventure. Anyway, I will end this essay with a line from everyone's favorite mushroom, who is, of course, Mr. Mushroom. In his final appearance at the nameless village on the surface, he says, quote, "Do they realize it would only be the beginning? If they cleave themselves free, they would need to find their way anew." Earlier we talked about how the big difference between Hallow Nest and Farloom is that Farloom is still alive. And even more, it has a chance to be reborn. Hollow Knight was a story about the end of a kingdom, the final dying breath of Hallow Nest, whereas Silksong is a story about a new beginning. And next time we are going to examine those themes of growth and rebirth in more detail by delving into Hornet's character arc and analyzing how her character transforms over the course of this story. So, see you next time.